Hello everyone, a massive welcome to you. It is so good to have you back here. If this is your first time here, a very big welcome in particular to you. My name is Gemma Lonsdale. I am a prophet, a speaker, an author. I've got my book just over my left hand corner, or my left hand shoulder there, which is Wisdom Proverbs for Today. You can pick that up on Amazon. I am going to make sure that my link tree, which has all of my links in it, is actually in the description of this video. So if you want more information, you can check that out. Today I wanted to share some information with you about the Russia-Ukraine conflict and where we can expect to see that go, and try and give you a little bit of the bigger picture here of what we can expect to happen and what we can expect really from the aftermath. Now, it is a very delicate subject. I really appreciate that some of you come to things like this particularly with fear, and thinking about it might bring up a lot of fear and worry and anxiety and things like that. That is not what this video is for. That's not the purpose of it. But I do want to talk to you about how it has affected me over the years, obviously receiving information like this and what I have done to combat that. Okay, so I'll get to that in a little bit further on into the video. Now, for those of you who have only just started to follow me recently on YouTube, historically my information, my content and my predictions and prophecies and messages were all shared on TikTok. So I didn't really share a great deal on YouTube. I do want to share with you some information that was given to me that I posted onto TikTok back in 2022. I believe it was the day of the invasion, whenever Russia invaded Ukraine. This was actually the first ever bit of information that I was given, actually from a lady spirit guide that was with me at the time. And she had been with me for probably a year or so. And she had actually been the person that would give me all of the information that would come to me through from God, through from the spirit world. And she shared this with me. So I want to play just a short little snippet back for you of this, first of all. So listen to this. Is saying that the situation is going to get much worse. Now, the Ukraine was only invaded, I believe, this morning by Russia, but she is saying that the situation is going to get much worse, and she's saying about battening down the hatches. She is also saying that this is going to spread further, so I know it's going to encroach on other territories as well, and she is showing me involvement of other countries too. I'm not sure how far stretched, but I am seeing the involvement of more than just the two. She's saying to me multiple, so I know that there's going to be multiple, countries involved. She is also saying now that obviously now that things have progressed to this stage, things do have to take their course. There's no reversing what is happening. She is also telling me that the death toll is going to be greater than what's anticipated. And she is actually comparing it to World War II, and she's saying in excess. She is also making me aware that there are a couple of different paths that things can actually go down. So the end goal here isn't set in stone, but she is stating that although they see currently that it is set to continue for a few years, it could actually continue for quite a bit longer. She is also just making me aware of the fact that although there is a reluctance from the UK and from other EU countries and even the US to get involved directly in the conflict, she does see that it is inevitable, and she sees that there is a high chance, a high probability that we will be getting involved to defend ourselves and to intervene. It was pretty hard listening back on those, to be honest, especially whenever I can remember the fear that I felt at that particular time. That was such a large thing to be given and to be asked to share. And I can remember worried so much about putting fear into people, but also realizing that by sharing it and making people aware, it actually gives them a chance to prepare. And I don't mean necessarily preparing, buying tins and storing water. I mean preparing your nervous system, preparing yourself emotionally for such a big thing to actually happen. Now, I wish that I was coming here today to say that, oh, actually everything is going to come to a swift finish and it's not going to spread in a large war. And I wish that was the information that I was given to you today. I wish that I was able to tell you that this was going to end in peace, But the reality of it, based on the information that I am being given today, is no different really to what I was given back in 2022. And I am being given visions of this escalating. I am being given visions of this, encroaching over multiple countries and continents. Okay, so there seems to be something fairly large scale that is set to come about. I also, back, I think it was about 2022 actually, and I was actually given a vision of bombs dropping in London, and or there being a bomb in London and it happening at Christmas or in around Christmas. And I had made the assumption at that time in my own naivety that it was that Christmas. But I've come to realise now that I was being told of something that was set to come to pass, but wasn't necessarily set to happen immediately. So we're unfortunately in a time where we are moving to what will be called World War III. That's what I have been told. This is World War III. So I can't give you information on the speed or the pace. I can't tell you when things are going to happen. The visions that I have been shown have focused more on Russia, to be fair, rather than on NATO and the involvement from different NATO countries. What I have been shown is Putin in talks or having conversations, ensuring that they're on the same page with an Asian country. That could be China. I'm not being told, but I am seeing people getting their heads together, ensuring that they are on the same page and having a plan of attack and having a battle plan. This does not mean that Russia is going to be the one to pick, to make the first move here. We're not given all of the details of exactly how things unfurl, but what I am being shown is a large show of force that does come from Russia. Whether that's a retaliation, whether that is a provocation, I don't know. But there is something there that I am being shown. Now, as I mentioned to you earlier, it's something that I felt a lot of fear and anxiety and nerves over back in 2022 whenever I first delivered it. It was the first major piece of information about a world event that I was actually given to share out. Now, I actually had been told about a major war that was set to happen about 6 months before the Ukraine-Russia conflict began, but I hadn't expected that it would be any connection to Europe. I hadn't expected that it would impact Europe in any way. So whenever Russia and Ukraine kicked off, and we've obviously seen things unfurl, I was really surprised that actually this is something that is going to impact me. This is a war that is going to, impact Europe. It's going to impact Britain and Ireland and America and potentially other different countries in there as well. And I wish that I could tell you that everything is going to just be all rosy, and it's not. There's going to be some really major challenging times that come within that. However, there are a lot of positives that come with challenging times, especially with wars. It provides us with an opportunity almost to reset in a way. It brings us back into connection with our food. If we think back to World War One and World War Two, and like my ex-husband used to have a tin in the kitchen that said "Dig for Victory." We were growing our own vegetables. We were eating more close range, sharing food with people, buying from local farmers and from local shops. And yes, there was rations and things like that, but we were getting back in touch with our food, cooking from scratch and doing all of these things that a lot of us have come away from. It also brings us back to community as well. There's many of us that, have such busy lives that we're working and then we don't speak to our neighbours. Many of us don't even know who our neighbours are. We don't really integrate and connect with people in the same way. And it gives us opportunity to do that again as well. So there are an awful lot of positives. It can be very humbling and grounding, really, from what I have been shown and from what I have experienced in times of like my own strife and things like that. I appreciate I can't connect it to World War III. But it is very humbling and very grounding whenever we're being stripped back and brought back to basics. So an awful lot of positive things there. There is also big lessons here for us to learn as well in terms of who we hand over our power to. If you have watched any of my other videos, you will see that I talk about that a lot. We hand an awful lot of our power away as people. You know, we hand it over to government, politicians, to the system, essentially, you know, to the man. And we hand it over for a sense of safety, for security, to entrust somebody to make decisions on our behalf. And unfortunately, with the egos that we have within the world, leading the world, it's not always decisions that best fit with what we need. Sometimes the egos can get in the way and it becomes a show of force rather than, okay, let's just have a peaceful operation here. Let's try and solve this issue. So it really gives us an opportunity to learn who we choose and who we want to put into positions of power. It also is providing us as a world this opportunity to reset and to really reevaluate how we live overall. And one of the big things in my life, and I will be completely honest with you here, I didn't grow up as a believer in God. I talk about God, you might say source, you might believe in the universe, you might have another faith, but I didn't grow up believing in God. In fact, I didn't really think that any of that existed. I can remember having a conversation with my aunt years ago, whenever I was probably maybe about 8 or 9 years old. And I had said to her, yeah, you know, I think Jesus probably did exist, but I think he was probably just a really good person, you know. You know, so I didn't have that faith. I wasn't a church goer every week. I wasn't a part of a religious community. And I always hoped that there was an afterlife. I can remember my grandmother used to say to me, if there's a way back, she'll find it and she will come back. And she did. She did. And it wasn't really until I started to have my own experiences and I had my own spiritual awakening that was brought about from my own traumas that I had experienced in my life whenever I started to seek change, that I started to develop faith. And that faith didn't just come overnight. That faith had to be cultivated over a number of years to really have me believing that there was an afterlife, there was a God, there is a higher power that takes care of us. And the more that I have actually invested in my faith and learned to trust on what I cannot see versus what we actually have in the real world, the science, the material things, well, I need to know what job I'm going to next before I quit my job. You know, having faith that actually the money will come and I'll be able to pay the mortgage. I have a faith that surpasses the physical world, and I appreciate how hard it is to cultivate that because I have had to cultivate it for myself. What I would really say to you, and this isn't me trying to ram God down your throat, is that focus on faith. If you have fear, if you have anxiety, if you have worry, this doesn't need to mean that you turn to religion. Turn to a higher power. Invest in your spiritual connection. Invest in a relationship with that higher power. Whether you call it God, whether you refer to it as, you know, as source or something else. Focus on cultivating that relationship and starting to learn how to trust that there is something there, depending on where you are in your journey. And also trust that it is going to work for you and support you and hold you up when you fall. Because whenever you do that, your anxiety, your illnesses, your depression, all of the worries that you have will go away. For anybody that is a new viewer here, I have stage 4 breast cancer. This is my 3rd breast cancer diagnosis. And God had told me that he was going to take my cancer off me. I knew before my cancer even came back that I was going to get cancer again, but that it was going to be cured, and that when it went, it wouldn't come back, it wouldn't return. So here I am today telling you that have faith. Whenever you invest in what you cannot see and invest in that higher power, your world will change. No more fear, no more anxiety. The illnesses can be taken off you. Turn to some sort of faith. And it is that will get you through things like World War III, any other turbulence in your life, cancer diagnoses, turbulence when it comes to marriages and things like that. That is what is going to change your world. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with that. If you want to follow me, you can get in touch with me on other platforms. Obviously, subscribe here, of course. Get in touch with me on other platforms. I'm on Instagram and TikTok. I feel like I've got a bit of a frog in my throat today. I also write on Substack every week as well. You can find all of my links in my link tree down below in the description for this video, and I look forward to catching up with you again. Okay, so take this video, take all of the information that is in it, and do not let fear take hold, because honestly, there is a bigger purpose here. There is a bigger reason why this is happening. This is going to bring about an awful lot of positive changes in the world, changes in who we let into power, changes in how we give power away, changes in how we connect to a higher power, changes to how we live. It's going to be positive. The change may not be comfortable and it may not be welcomed either by you. You know, we become very comfortable, don't we, in how we live and how we go about our day to day. So the change can be uncomfortable, but it is necessary. The change is necessary. And sometimes it's the big life quakes like this that come along in order to help us all redirect as a collective, in order to bring us towards something better.